Caro, the blame game has begun at Essendon. There's the romantics of Essendon and the throwback and the nostalgics. There's the Brad Scott era. There's your suggestions that you think Brad coached with one hand behind his back. And this was the provocative response from Mark Robinson, the Herald Sun. What hogwash, which is a word of yours. Veteran reporter Caroline Wilson.
I don't use hogwash. I'm a Boulder Dash girl.
Veteran reporter Caroline Wilson opined on Saturday that Brad Scott had been coaching for 2 years with one arm tied behind his back because not everyone's been pulling in the same direction at Essendon. There's nothing but PR spin from inside Essendon. So the inference there that you were briefed to give Scott some sort of out for a second consecutive wasted second half of the season. It goes on to mention Sheedy and Dodoro and others. A fair retort from the Herald Sun tackle.
Oh, look, I don't know if it's fair or not fair. It's wrong. I mean, I've been watching this situation for 2 years. I've been talking to a lot of people at Essendon and people outside of Essendon, Brad Scott supporters, Adrian Dodoro supporters, others who've remained at the club, Kevin Sheedy supporters, Kevin Sheedy detractors. What I know, Craig, after covering footy for many years, is you don't win premierships when everyone isn't pulling in the same direction. And I will go to my grave saying that. And I will also end this season and continue to say that Essendon did not have all its key people pulling in the same direction for the last 2 years. Kevin Sheedy, largely symbolic, I grant you that. I don't think he had much influence, but it can't help when a club legend and a director says they don't back the coaching appointment and then is allowed to stay for not one, but then is allowed to be reappointed for another year when his term was up. I don't think Kevin Sheedy has been the biggest Brad Scott fan. I'm not saying he's a Brad Scott detractor. And I don't think Adrian Dodoro and Matt Rosa have been pulling in the same direction.
How do you think that affects...
Matt Rosa is the new list boss, by the way.
The on-field performance, though. So is Brad influenced by those people in terms of selection or his game
I think
plan
Brad Scott was told
decisions?
a lot of things when he got the job. I mean, obviously there was a CEO debacle, which was quickly fixed. And I think that the new CEO, Craig Vozzo, the recent appointment has been good. I think he was made promises that weren't kept. About the soft cap, I think that things were said to him about what Adrian Dodoro's role would be. And Adrian Dodoro is very influential with the players and with some of the coaches and with others in the footy department.
Robbo is intimating letting Brad Scott off the hook there.
I think Brad Scott is to blame as well for this year, and I think the players are to blame. I think the boards, I think everyone at Essendon has to take responsibility, but you cannot have success when everyone is not pulling in the same direction. That is going to happen now, and let's see where they are at the end of next year, because they should, I reckon, on what we saw this year, they should go close to making finals, perhaps finally winning that elusive
What
final.
you do say is right. I think you need everyone pulling in the same direction, but I think you do give Brad Scott an easy out in what you're saying with a hand tied behind his back. How's Ken Hinkley coaching, you reckon? Do you reckon everything goes swimmingly for Ken?
Yeah, he's got a board situation too.
Yeah, but Caro, so in that situation, I just think he's got to look at why players haven't developed. I think he's got to look at why he gave up leads against the Adelaide Crows, why he gave up leads against the Gold Coast Suns, the soft draw that they had, why that didn't come through.
You spoke about the game plan.
The game plan, I just reckon, that 36 entries to half-time to 18, can't score. The ball movement's not quite there. So I think you're right that you need a lot going right for you, but I think one hand tied behind his back was a bit strong.
I also think that culture is a big part of any football club, and I think, and I wrote about this on Saturday, their love affair with the past has got to end.
What did with Dyson Heppell not being picked, which was
I think that was symbolic. I mean, he'll play this week.
Do you disagree with this? I heard your comments on radio on Friday night.
Yeah, I did. No, I think that there's certain people that you have leave with the ultimate respect, and Dyson Heppell has given more to that club than any other player in the last 15 years. I didn't believe he was going to hinder or hurt selection integrity. There's 5 players I could name that he'd do just as good a job as. Would have been, I think he deserved the right to play.
So you disagree with Brad Scott, who clearly doesn't think he was in their best 23?
Yes.
At a time when their season was still
Are you saying he's in the best 23, or are you saying he was close enough to warrant the emotional?
Yeah, close enough to play, And
where are you on that?
Yeah, no, I'm with that, and I said that when the teams were named. I think Kelly getting a game in front of him, Wiedemann is another one in the boost, even if you played him as sub and brought him on halfway through the third
Would you
quarter,
be saying the same thing tonight,
boost.
Kane, if Essendon had lost by the same margin and he had played and had no impact?
Well, I think he would have had just as equal impact as Wiedemann, who was hopeless. Mackay was hopeless. Redmond was hopeless. I don't think Dyson Heppell has been hopeless this year.
And then, of course, there's Brad Scott's view of where they are. He spoke about this and intimated that there had been steps this year.
Again, the foundation of what we're doing is really solid. I mean, we were incapable of competing against the best when it mattered last year, if you want the comparison. It's a bit of polish, a bit of system, a bit of class that is the difference between us and the best.
So there will be changes to development, and Blake Caracella, I'm told, will move on. He will go to either Richmond or Collingwood. Has been talking to both those footy clubs, so there will be changes.
And a lot of the talk and opinion around Essendon is, okay, well, don't play the players that continually let us down. But, I mean, that's the list. That's what you're going to go with, because that's what you've committed to from a list management point of view. All of those players contracted until 2027 and beyond. Some of them ridiculous, like the Ridley contract extension when he already had 3 years.
Is that Brad Scott's fault?
No. I'm not saying this is the footy club. I'm saying Brad Scott has got what he's got to work with. When you say don't play these guys, well, you're going to have to. That's the core of your list that's going to be there at least until the end of 2027.
Swans finished top. They've been concerned about their slow starts along the way.
You look at it and you go, okay, it's okay, and then it starts to creep up on you and you go, okay, we need to address this because it's now costing us games. And so, we've talked about it internally, but, we've probably gone away from it the last 14 days just because sometimes you can just talk about it too much. It's like goal kicking, as you know, and we have to do it tonight. I think everyone's just sick of sort of talking about it, and we've just got to produce it on the night.
Found that really interesting Friday night, that I reckon they've tried a number of different things, talked about their starts. Nothing has changed for them, so they've decided not to talk about it at all. But yet, if they were playing a better side on Friday night that was going better than the Bombers, I think they lose that game again. Love their second half, but again, their starts aren't going to take them to a premiership glory.